Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittnee, and today I'm going to show you something super useful, how to make a dome, globe, sphere, or bubbles with gelatin. Using gelatin is a great alternative to messing around with hot sugar or isomalt if you're looking for something that is edible. Now, you probably won't want to actually eat these, but if you're looking for a clear or colored glass-looking sphere for a cake or dessert, it's always more impressive if it's technically edible. And this technique is so useful that once you know it, you'll probably find yourself using it all the time. Later in the video, I'll show you how I used it to make a cute, wintry snow globe, but I also want to show you how I used it to make a themed dessert. So for Halloween this year, I went to a Harry Potter themed party, and I was in charge of making the dessert. I wanted it to be interactive and fun, so I decided on a crystal ball. Each guest had a different future made of chocolate inside. When I served the dessert, I put fog from dry ice inside the gelatin spheres and placed those on top of mini cakes. As the fog leaked out, it revealed each guest's future. All right, shall we get started? You'll just need to grab some gelatin and water, some balloons, you'll want some tape, and some food color if you'd like to color your spheres. All right, so the ratio you want to use to make this gelatin is 1 cup of cold water to 8 envelopes gelatin or 2 boxes. But for the purpose of this video, I need to make a lot so I can show you all the different sizes and then color some at the end. So I'm going to use 2 cups of cold water and 4 boxes of gelatin. So I'm just going to start by sprinkling in all the gelatin and then leaving it to let it bloom. If you're making a lot of spheres, especially big ones, it's just required that you need a lot of gelatin because it needs to be deep enough for you to dip the balloon. So that's why I'm making so much. I know it looks like a lot. Really, to make this easier, you could put all the gelatin in a bowl and then put it all in at once. That would have been better, but I didn't think about it, so. Okay, now I'm going to whisk it so that there's no clumps and all the gelatin is coated with water so that it can bloom. Right, once you're done whisking, you want to just let it sit. And now while your gelatin sets up, go ahead and blow up the balloons to the size or sizes that you need. Now put your gelatin in a pot over the stove on low to medium heat and heat it until it liquefies. The reason I like to do this on the stove rather than in the microwave is to keep the gelatin warm and prevent it from setting up while I am dipping the balloons. All right, so once your gelatin is liquid, you want to turn your burner down to the very lowest so that the gelatin doesn't continue heating up. You just want to keep it warm. And then the next thing you want to do is skim off all the foam off the top because we don't want bubbles in our bubbles. So now I'm going to start by showing you one of the bigger balloons. I want it to be clear with no coloring in. And see how the gelatin, even though I made a ton, is not that deep? I'm going to have to turn the balloon to get the first coat. And I want to be a little bit careful because the gelatin is pretty warm. So I'm just going to dunk it in and make sure the whole balloon is covered. And I want my balloon to be covered all the way to the spot where I'm holding as much as possible. So I'm just twisting it around like this until it's covered. And then I'm going to let it drip for just a second. And if you let it drip only one way, it's going to get a little drip on the tip top. So I also like to tip it and give it a little bounce like this so that it runs down to the side and the little drippy spot isn't all in one place. If you let it drip a little bit until it just begins to set up, that'll prevent a little bit of the little drip mark, but probably won't get rid of it all the way. And now to hang this to dry, this is the method I like to use. Before I dip my balloon, I take a piece of tape and get it ready like that on my kitchen cupboard. And once I'm done dipping, I take the tape. If it's a little bit, the top of the balloon got gelatin, I give it a wipe so it'll stick. I open up my cupboard and I hang it from the inside with the tape like this. And then the extra security is that I close the cupboard and it keeps them safe from falling. And it's the perfect place to dry. Also, if the little drips start to happen again after you dip, you can manipulate them by giving them a little wipe. All right. So I'll just continue dipping my clear ones, their first coat. And it helps too, like if you can't get all the foam off, just push it to the side for a second while you dip. I'm okay with the snow globe having some bubbles because it kind of looks like wintry. And you can see how it would help to have a deeper thing of gelatin. Also, I didn't think about it that even though it's deeper, it's hard to get it fully submerged. If you have gelatin up to here and you're doing a lot of big ones, it helps if you just push really hard down and give one clean dunk. But you know, water displacement and density and all that, it really is hard to get the whole balloon under. So here's the last balloon that I'll be doing clear. It's a little bit smaller, so it should be a little easier to dip. Just make sure it's all coated. Now before I color the gelatin, I need to do a second coat on my clear balloons. So I'm going to grab this one. And I'm going to give it a second coat. Move some of these bubbles out of the way. And with the clear spheres that I use for the snow globe, I'm only giving them 2 coats because I want them to be clear. And you'll see after I remove the balloon from the gelatin, you'll see how thin the gelatin is, but it's surprisingly really strong. It bends and bends while I'm taking it off, but it doesn't break. So I'll show you that tomorrow because these have to dry for at least, you know, overnight, a day. I usually wait at least 12 hours. So yeah, you want to do between 2 to 4 coats, but like I said, I want these to be as clear as possible, so I'm just going to do 2. I don't need to do more than 2. Also, I didn't wait a certain amount of time between second coats. I do all the balloons once, and then by the time I'm ready for the second coat, I just go ahead and do the second coat. Now that all of my clear gelatin balloon babies have 2 coats, I'll let them sit for at least 12 hours to set up and dry. And if you notice they have the little drip mark before they dry completely, you can just carefully snip it off before it sets up. Now that I'm done with the clear, I am going to add some color to the rest. We'll start with 1 drop of blue, and that's definitely enough. So I'll do it the exact same way, but this time I'll do 4 coats on each just to show you the texture difference, and then you can just decide whatever is right for you and your project. So it's lighter than it looks obviously in the pan, in the pot. So I might add a little bit more color for the second coat. Actually, before I do the rest of the first coats, I'm going to add 1 more drop. We'll see how that looks on the balloon. Another great way to prevent the little drip mark on the bottom of the balloon is to flip it all the way upside down when you're almost done dripping. Bounce it for just a little bit and blow on it, and it'll start drying it and prevent the little drip when you hang it up to dry. Okay, so I've got all the balloons here. Just going to take off the tape. Okay, so the way I'm going to peel the balloon off, I have these little cuticle, I think they're cuticle scissor things. Don't worry about these fresh, and I only use them for decorating and stuff. Girl. So I'm going to cut a hole around the balloon at the top. And if you already know how big you want the hole to be, like if you're using it for the snow globe cupcake, you want the hole to be basically, whoops, basically as big as the cupcake. So I'm going to just make the hole a little bigger. That will help get the balloon out. You can always make it bigger later. And this is gonna look like I'm ruining the gelatin sphere, but I promise it'll turn out. So I'm just going to start peeling it as best I can. Now, the more coats you do of the gelatin, obviously the less flexible the sphere is going to be. As you can tell, mine is bending, but you can dent it and pop it right back out. It's pretty crazy. The gelatin is very resilient, but as the balloon peels, I just like snip it in the areas where it's stretching the gelatin. If you can get a good one, you can do it all at once, but this one's not quite working. There we go. So it's starting to really peel. I basically am just sticking my finger in there and pulling it. And if you feel like you're stressing out the gelatin too much, you can cut it so that it's not tugging. And the balloon will just slowly stretch itself off. Okay. You can see how crazy this looks. It looks totally wrinkled. But then you just pop it all back into place. Sorry, this is so loud. and it just pops right back out. And like I said, the reason I do this is because I want it to be as clear as possible so that it looks more like glass, you know? So I like to only do 2 coats. But like I told you yesterday, I did 4 coats on the blue ones. And they're a lot crunchier. So I'm going to do it the same way. This one's a lot crunchier. So I have to stick these in. And these are going to be little like bubbles, so I'm not going to cut the hole as big at all. I'm going to keep it as small as I possibly can. Take off the top. And peeling out the balloon, and you can see with 4 coats, the balloon is not stretching and bending and moving around. So then you have a cute little blue bubble. And you can hear this one's a lot crunchier and this one is not. Okay, so I'm just going to do the rest of these really, well, not really quick, but it's gonna look really quick for you because I'm going to do a time lapse. Okay, Now I'm going to assemble the snow globe cupcake. Just so you know, I made all the little decorations for the inside with modeling chocolate. You can click the card above to see a video for that recipe. And then all the pipe decorations are just melted candy melts. And then this is the globe that I chose for the cupcake. I cut the hole pretty big, as you can see, because I need room to slide it over the decorations. So that's about how big I cut it. And I have a bag of buttercream icing. So I'm going to pipe a little bit on there, but I think I want it to be only inside the snow globe. So I'm going to leave some space around the edge. And now I'll smooth it out just a little bit with a hot offset spatula. I just ran it under some hot water and then wiped it off to dry, just so it's nice and flat and a little bit smooth. That's pretty good. Look like snow. Now this side must have got a thicker coat and lots of bubbles, so I'm going to use the front, the clearer side for the front like that. And I'll just place my decorations on. I'm gonna put the house basically right in the center. Just give it a little squish down. This snowman is my favorite. He was kind of hard to make, but okay. Now I'm just going to carefully slide this on. That side got caught. There we go. I think actually to finish it off, I'm going to grab a smaller tip and just pipe a cute like pearl border here real quick. I hope that this video was useful for you guys and that you learned something new. If you liked it, please give it a like down below. It helps me out a lot. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, then today's the day. And if you'd like to see something else that sweet, just click on one of these thumbnails. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.